Trump puts China through hell before arriving in Beijing this Tuesday, May 12, 2026. The trip, scheduled for May 14 and 15, puts Xi Jinping under unbearable pressure. Because the White House arrives with demands about Iran, rare earths, Taiwan, oil, and possible Chinese support for supply chains linked to Tehran's military machine. Trump is not just coming to talk, he's coming to demand. A China that tried to grow quietly while buying Iranian oil, controlling critical minerals, and is still pressuring Taiwan in the Indo-Pacific. I'll explain that soon, but make sure to subscribe to the channel to stay informed. Real-time information with the best journalistic quality ever seen and a standard of credibility. Milson Alves. The pressure starts with Iran. Washington has put tough demands on the table against companies and individuals accused of facilitating the shipment of Iranian oil to China. On May 11, the United States government sanctioned 3 people and 9 companies, including companies linked to Hong Kong, the United Arab Emirates, and Oman, for allegedly helping Tehran sell oil and fund financial networks of the Revolutionary Guard. Trump doesn't want China to continue serving as an economic lifeline for Iran, while Tehran threatens energy routes, funds China's regional allies, and challenges the American presence in the Middle East. Beijing tries to defend itself, saying that these sanctions are abusive, but this reaction only shows the extent of the pressure. China has bought a lot of Iranian oil in recent years and has become essential to Tehran's economic survival. Now, with Trump personally going to the Chinese capital, Xi will have to deal with an uncomfortable question. Does it want to be seen as a responsible power or as the nation that helps Iran keep money flowing? In the midst of a crisis, this is the strain that Beijing wanted to avoid. The trip hasn't even started yet, but the Chinese government is already feeling the political cost of its rapprochement with Tehran. The Strait of Hormuz adds even more to this burden. The crisis in the Gulf has directly affected China's energy security because a large part of the oil that supplies Beijing's economy passes through sensitive maritime routes. Reuters data shows that Chinese oil imports fell to 9.37 million barrels per day in April, the lowest level in almost 4 years. Meanwhile, purchases linked to the Hormuz route plummeted due to the war and the blockade. This means that Trump arrives in Beijing at a time when China itself is paying the price of the crisis it tried to manage from afar. The White House is also bringing up the issue of rare earths. China tried to use critical minerals as a tool of pressure against the United States, but this weapon ended up exposing the Chinese regime itself to the public. These materials are used in defense systems, technology, chips, electric vehicles, radars, and drones. Trump brings this point to the meeting with Xi Jinping as a political accusation. China wants to sell stability, but uses economic dependence as a tool. This pressure is intense because of rare earths. Xi knows that. That's why the meeting with Trump isn't comfortable. Trump's visit turns a Chinese advantage into a diplomatic problem. Taiwan will be another point of friction. Trump stated that he intends to discuss with Xi Jinping the arms sales to Taiwan and also the case of businessman Jimmy Lai, who is imprisoned in Hong Kong. Reuters reported that Trump mentioned these topics before the trip, including the multi-billion-dollar arms package for Taiwan and the demand for freedoms in Hong Kong. For Beijing, this is explosive because Taiwan touches the core of Chinese political ambition, while Hong Kong exposes the repressive side of the regime. China would like to treat Taiwan as a domestic issue, but Trump arrives with the clout of someone putting regional security on the table. The island is strategic for the Indo-Pacific. For China, it's about chips, and for the military balance against Beijing. Xi Jinping will not have a free hand to intimidate Taiwan. The meeting in Beijing therefore puts the Chinese leader in a position of being challenged in his own backyard. Trump goes to China, but he brings along the shadow of Taiwan, the American Navy, technology, and Asian allies. Hong Kong increases the embarrassment. Jimmy Lai has become an international symbol of Chinese repression against critical voices. By bringing this issue to Xi, Trump puts pressure on China in a field that Beijing hates: political freedom. The Chinese regime prefers to discuss trade, tariffs, and agreements because in these matters they can negotiate numbers. But when the conversation turns to imprisonment, censorship, religion, and social control, China's image is exposed. Trump uses this point to show that the trip is not limited to economic interests. It also confronts the way Beijing treats those who challenge the Communist Party. The meeting between Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi also weighs against Beijing. The visit of the Iranian representative to China took place just a few days before Trump's arrival, with Beijing trying to position itself as a defender of dialogue and stability. But for Washington, the picture is different. While Iran is at the center of the crisis, China appears to be giving diplomatic space to Tehran. This gives Trump a strong opening to press Xi directly. If China claims to have influence over Iran, then it should use that influence to reduce tensions. If it doesn't use it, it shows that its diplomacy serves more to protect allies than to contain threats. Trump's calculation is simple and tough. Beijing depends on energy, exports, access to markets, and stability in maritime routes. Maintain pressure on Taiwan, buy cheap Iranian oil, dominate rare earths, and expand influence in the Middle East. Trump puts all these issues on the same table. That's the unbearable pressure. China will have to respond on several fronts at the same time, without being able to hide one crisis behind another. History shows that American presidential visits to China can change the game when Washington arrives, knowing where to apply pressure. In 1972, Nixon went to Beijing and opened a new phase of the Cold War by exploiting the rivalry between China and the Soviet Union. The visit was not diplomatic tourism. It was a strategic move that brought China out of isolation and put the United States at the center of the dispute between communist powers. Now Trump arrives in Beijing bringing a different kind of pressure. He doesn't come just offering rapprochement. He arrives demanding Iranian oil, critical minerals, Hong Kong, and energy security. The logic is similar in method. He is not offering rapprochement. He arrives demanding Iranian oil and critical minerals. Nixon used the communist split. Trump uses China's dependence on energy, trade, and global stability. Another historical example helps to understand the importance of Taiwan. In 1995 and 1996, China launched missile tests and conducted military exercises to intimidate Taiwan. The United States responded by sending aircraft carriers to the region, showing that Beijing could threaten but not control the strait on its own. That episode deeply shaped China's strategy. Since then, Beijing has invested in its navy, missiles, and technology to try to prevent another demonstration of American force. But now Trump is hitting the same nerve with weapons for Taiwan, political pressure, and defending the balance in the Indo-Pacific. For Xi, this is no small matter. It's a reminder that the United States still has the power to get involved in China's most sensitive issue right in the Chinese capital. The nightmare for China lies in the answers Xi will have to give in the face of Trump, the markets, Taiwan, and Asian allies. And from everyone watching to see if Beijing will act as a responsible power or as a silent sponsor of crises that threaten the world. I'm Milson Alves, an international affairs specialist, and my purpose is to keep you well informed with the truth every day. The news links are in the video description. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end, check out the comments so you can be even more engaged with the Milson Alves community.